The break is over and fights are back. We have Nicolau taking on Alex Perez in an Apex main event. And those are not normally words that would ring joy in our lives, but we didn't have any fights last week. And it was a stark reminder that even trash Apex cards are better than no fights at all. My name is Angelo. This is We Want Picks. And I'm going to break down the entire UFC Vegas 91 fight card, giving you my picks, predictions, and DraftKings plays. But before I do, let's take a look at the $20,000 ticket from one of our very own premium members at UFC 300. Critter in DraftKings reached out in a DM, shared his $20,000 winning ticket and said, I've been watching you guys 3 years now, and you guys are by far the most consistent and entertaining. Lock of the week, and your analysis of these fights helped a lot. Send a link so I can donate. I said, you don't need to donate, just be a premium member and support us that way. And he said, I already am. And thank you very much, Crit, for sharing this, for reaching out, and for being a premium member. But he's not the anomaly. He's not the one shining star in the over 3,000 premium members. A lot of our premium members have had some wild success. We have over $500,000 in winning tickets shared from premium members. This is DraftKings Fantasy only. These are people that watch the videos, they're premium members, they use the ownership projections, they use the optimizer, and they build DraftKings fantasy lineups. And then they have taken down over $500,000 in winnings and then share those winnings with us. And when I say share with us, I don't mean give us the money, I mean share with us. The same way Crit did. Here's my winning ticket. Thank you guys. I'm a premium member. You can join them. You can unlock the DraftKings Optimizer, preloaded with the best ownership projections in the game. You can do all of that. And the only thing it'll cost you is freaking $10. It is only $10 for an entire month. Just go to WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member at the top, and you will unlock the ownership projections, the DraftKings Optimizer, and everything else that we offer, like the DraftKings Plays, the FanDuel Plays, and the prop bets, including the picks, the bets, and everything else. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member at the top. It is literally $10. Next week is UFC 301. For $10, you're going to get a pay-per-view and 3 fight nights. Let's be real. It is the greatest value in this space, period, end of story, and here is your proof. Let's go ahead and break down this card. We have 13 fights. 2 of them have short notice opponents. The main event is a short notice matchup. Alex Perez stepped up on short notice. That isn't quite as short as some of the other fights, right? That was a couple of weeks ago. We do have Chris Padilla stepping up on a couple of days' notice to save that fight. But let's go ahead and break this down. Opening up the UFC Vegas 91 fight card, we have Maheshate taking on Gabriel Benítez. This is a tricky fight because Maheshate is not good. Let's be real. Maheshate, am I right, guys? Am I right? Like, that was that was my, oh, we're the funniest people in this space. That was my super clever joke. Like and subscribe. We have Maheshate taking on Gabriel Benítez. He is a somewhat talented dude. He's only 24 years old, though, and that's the issue here. He makes bonehead 24-year-old mistakes. He does have composure inside the cage. He doesn't get rattled. He doesn't panic. But he will make some interesting decisions. He is a fun, creative striker. He'll hang out for a firefight when he should be hanging out on the outside fighting a technical matchup. He is coming off the TKO loss to Vasyslav Borshev. The reality is he has 2 losses in the UFC. The Rafa Garcia loss, well, you're going to get taken down. That's what Rafa does. The Vasyslav Borshev fight, that guy is a nasty, high-level striker. One of the better, more dangerous strikers in this entire division. So those are some quality losses. But Maheshate is a very young guy that needs to fight a specific fight because he's taking on a tried and true veteran in Gabriel Benítez. And yes, Gabriel looked, I mean, too bad his last name doesn't have Shate in it because Gabriel looked like Shitez in his last fight. He fought Jim Miller, also an older veteran, but he was supposed to be the better striker. That's what Gabriel Benítez is. He's a very good kickboxer. He's got excellent kicks, and the fables and the tales being told are that he has the best kicks at American Kickboxing Academy. That gym includes Cain Velasquez, Luke Rockhold, and other giants. But Gabriel Benítez has been a little bit inconsistent. He just came off a 2-year layoff. He lost to Jim Miller, and he did not look good in that fight. He looked old, slow, worn out. He didn't get his kicks going. He didn't get combinations going. He would throw one punch at a time. And that's a problem. You're not going to win a fight throwing one punch at a time, especially when you're supposed to be the much better kickboxer. So this is an interesting fight because Maheshate should win. He's going to be younger. He'll be faster. I don't think his striking will be as technically sound, but if Gabriel Benítez looks like he did in his last fight and is throwing one strike at a time, Maheshate should blow through him. But Gabriel is a veteran that has some decent wins. He's a veteran that's fought some better people. I mean, he's been in the UFC since 2014. But he is a little old. He's not consistent enough. I'm going to pick Maheshate to win, but I'm not going to trust him with my money. I think he's a little too expensive to make something happen at $8,800. Then we have Ivana Petrovic taking on Liang. Another interesting fight for DraftKings because Ivana Petrovic should win this fight. She should win. She's a decent fighter. She's pretty well-rounded. She can be a busy striker, but she typically wants to grapple. She wants to get the fights to the ground, and when she's on the ground, she's immediately going to start looking for submissions. She's not going to be the better wrestler in this matchup. So now we have a situation where, is she going to weather a storm? Is she going to be able to get it to the ground and then finish it? And we haven't seen her win yet in the UFC. She was completely outstruck by Luana Carolina in this fight. She had a couple of takedowns, and that was nice. But well done. Well done. But she lost that fight. She was just completely outstruck. The problem here is she's fighting Liang. Liang is a nasty wrestler who only knows how to wrestle. That's it. That's it. She's got 19 wins. 17 of those wins are stoppages. And if you look at those 17 wins and you look at, those 17 stoppages, you say, wow, she must be so dangerous. And then you go through those fighters. They're all trash. They're all trash. Trash regional fighters. Her record is hollow. She hasn't beaten anybody any good. She's 0-3 in the UFC. And the biggest red flag is she has success early. Other than the Gomez-Juarez fight where she was just absolutely sparked, she has success early. Took down Carnelozzi 3 times. Ariana Carnelozzi. Took down J.J. Aldrich 3 times. She has success early, and she looks good early. And then she just is like, I'm done. Me and my dumbass haircut are done. We're done. We're done. And that's what happens here. She just gives up fights. So we have a weird situation where a grappler is not going to be the better wrestler in a matchup, but her opponent in Liang's just straight up doesn't know what to do with her life. So Ivana Petrovic has to be the pick because Liang just loses fights, but Liang's going to have some early success, and she's only $6,800. She put up 41 points against Ariana Carnelozzi. So now we have like a mind pretzel. Because Ivana Petrovic, if this fight goes the way that any of Liang's other fights have gone, Liang will score decent for getting finished, and Ivana Petrovic will also score well because she'll get a finish. I'm probably going to stay away from Ivana Petrovic in this matchup. I'm probably going to stay away from her. And depending what my lineup looks like, the $6,800 on Liang, she could be the best losing dog, or she could actually somehow pull off an upset. So the reality is, and I say the reality is a lot, and I've said it probably 7. We are 9 minutes into a video, and I've said it 6 times. I apologize for that, and I will work on that. I will work on that. Between that, the lisp, saying slug fight, I have a couple of quirks. I actually have Tourette's. This is a true statement. This isn't a joke. But instead of just yelling obscenities for no reason whatsoever, I can't, and I'm doing it now because I'm talking about it, I stretch my mouth. I go, So if you watch some of the breakdowns, you may notice I do that. So I'm working on the Tourette's thing. I'm working on saying slug fight, the Russian last names, the lisp, and now I'm going to try not to say the reality is or interesting. I say interesting a lot. Jesus, do I need to work on myself? Either way, Liang might be a really good underdog if you're going to do some large field tournaments and you're going to have multiple lineups, and it is tournament, not tournament, you fucking weirdo, then I think you need a little bit of exposure to Liang. And that takes us to the short notice fight. We have James Llontop, and that is how you pronounce it, with a Y. Llontop taking on Chris Padilla. James Llontop was already on this card. He's not the short notice guy. He was here. He was supposed to fight Gabe Green. That's a tough fight. That's a UFC veteran. That's a guy that's been in there with some big names like Ian Gary. That's a guy that can strike with you and wrestle and do all those things. That is no longer his matchup. But this will be an interesting fight because James Llontop is priced at James Llontop is priced at $8,200 because he was fighting a UFC veteran. He is now fighting a UFC newcomer who is 6-6 in his last 12. You have to have James Llontop in your lineup just for the reasons I mentioned. And then if you look at his skill sets, well, this guy has 16 fights. He has 8 stoppages. He's not your normal UFC debut with a handful of fights. We know he's a good striker. We know he can win a decision. And those things are very important because a lot of times these UFC newcomers show up, they don't get a knockout immediately, and then they don't know what the hell to do with themselves. James Llontop can come in here and win a decision. He could also win by finish. He's a well-rounded guy, solid striking combinations, good body work. I think he wins this fight. And $8,200 is the discount of a century. He is taking on Chris Padilla. Chris Padilla stepping up a couple days' notice here. And he was priced accordingly at $6,900. I do not think he's a good underdog, though. I do think he's going to struggle a bit here. While he is 4-1 in his last 5, that's a nice little streak there. He is 6-6 in his last 12. He's only a 500 record in his last 12 fights. And he's not fighting the greatest caliber of fighter on the planet. He is a pretty well-rounded guy. He has some mixed success in the local scene. He likes to come forward. He'll strike briefly, and then he'll go ahead and try to clinch up and then try to make something happen there. He's not a comfortable striker. He literally just wants to close the distance. And then inside that clinch, he'll try to get you to the ground if he can. If you can pressure him, if you can back him up, you can give him a hard time. I don't think Chris Padilla wins this fight. I think short notice only makes that worse for him. And I do think James wins, and I think $8,200 is a spectacular price point for him in your DraftKings lineup. Then we have Ketlen Souza taking on Marnic Mann. This is a mismatch of sorts. Certainly physically, Marnic Mann is maybe a half an inch taller than an Oompa Loompa. Just tiny. She's very pretty, so Oompa Loompa wasn't a slight on her looks, more just on her height. But Ketlen Souza isn't spectacular either. Ketlen Souza is big. She's going to be a good pressure fighter. She is very heavy-handed. Everything she throws is big, heavy strikes. She does work in the occasional takedown again. And where I'm doing everything possible to not say interesting. Where the, let's see, what's a synonym for interesting? Intriguing. Where the intriguing part comes in is Ketlen Souza wants to come forward and just throw big, heavy strikes. But what she should do is wrestle a little bit because Marnic Mann probably isn't going to be able to knock out Ketlen or have that big power. But what we did discover in the Marnic Mann fight is that she can't get up if you take her down. If you take down Marnic Mann, she struggles to get up. Offensively, she's not so bad. She'll come forward. She is a tiny little thing. That's why her nickname is Sawed-Off Savage. She is a tiny little thing that'll come forward like a buzzsaw, swing heavy, try to get her own takedowns, and try to impose her will. But if you back her up, if you take her down, she can't get off bottom. She'll move. She'll work. She's not going to quit on herself. This fight will go long. But look, she scored 10 points in a full-blown decision. Can't have Marnic Mann in your lineup. Ketlen Souza probably pays for herself. Ketlen Souza, I don't think she's finishing Marnic Mann, but if she gets the wrestling going, she's going to rack up control time, rack up some takedowns, and Ketlen Souza can really score well for you in your DraftKings fantasy. Marnic Mann actually will be a decent underdog, not skill-wise, just raw toughness. She is tough, and she will not quit, but I don't think she wins this fight, and I don't think she's going to score very well. Then we have Caio Machado versus Don'Tale Mayes. We've had some interesting line. Damn it, I say interesting so much. But you know what? I just find all these things. It is interesting. The line movement on this fight is interesting. It is. Don'Tale Mayes just a week ago was a -200 favorite, a 2-1 favorite. Now he's an underdog. That's some interesting line movement. It's a lot of line. It's a lot of movement. And it's quite interesting. And I think that the odds now make more sense. When he was a 2-1 favorite, that didn't make sense. This makes sense. Because Caio Machado is a very well-rounded guy. He's this new generation of heavyweight where he doesn't rely on big one-punch power. He's got cardio, and he can grapple. Caio Machado's a decent striker with good footwork. He'll back up. He'll throw counters. He can move forward. He can throw jabs. And then he'll work in some clinches and some takedowns. He's a pretty well-rounded guy. He's not very dangerous, but he's very well-rounded, and he does have some good grappling. He's taking on Don'Tale Mayes. Don'Tale Mayes has... Ooh, that's Tim Means. They are not the same person. Don'Tale Mayes is that one-punch heavyweight. He can wrestle. We've seen it. 6 takedowns against Josh Parisian. He's got 7 takedowns in the UFC, but it's 1 against Roque Martinez, 6 against Josh Parisian, and we haven't seen one since. 1, 2, 3, 4 fights since then. And there are people out there in this world that are expecting Don'Tale Mayes to show up like a Nurmagomedov. I don't know why you're expecting that. Because he did it one time? Because one time he said, let me wrestle. You're going to put money on him to do that again? He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fights in the UFC. 8 fights in the UFC over 5 years. And he has only shot in takedowns in 2 fights. But you think he's going to come in here and turn into a Nurmagomedov. I think some people are chasing and trying to make up for some pretty horrific weeks. And it's not just, I'm actually not even speaking about anybody in particular. I have seen this narrative in our Discord. I have seen this narrative all over the interweb. There's a lot of people that are positive Don'Tale Mayes is going to come forward and shoot a bunch of takedowns on Caio Machado. And the reason they think that, 2 reasons. 1, because he took down Josh Parisian 3 years ago. And 2, because Caio Machado was taken down by Mick Parkin in his last fight 3 times. And you know what? If we could trust these fighters to come up with solid game plans and make those decisions, then we would have a very different betting environment. But how many times have we seen fighters with what should be a clear path to victory and they just don't do it? I cannot trust Don'Tale Mayes to come forward and all of a sudden just start wrestling his ass off for the 2nd time in 4 years. I can't trust that. What I can trust is Caio Machado, because we've seen him be busy with his striking. We've seen him defend some takedowns. We've seen him on the regional scene shoot a bunch of takedowns. We know he's got good BJJ. I think Caio Machado wins this fight. Now, we talk about if he should be in your lineup or not. No, I don't think Caio Machado should be in your lineup. I don't think Don'Tale Mayes should be either necessarily, but Don'Tale Mayes certainly has more upside than Caio Machado. If Caio Machado wins, it's just going to be a well-executed pitter-patter, stay on the outside striking match, and Caio might work in a takedown or 2. If Don'Tale Mayes wins, he could potentially land that big one-punch power that he landed on Andrei Arlovski, or he could turn into the Nurmagomedov that he was 4 years ago with the takedowns against Josh Parisian. Don'Tale Mayes has more upside if you do think he wins and you do want to put him in your lineup. He certainly makes more sense. I think Caio Machado wins this fight, but I don't think he's going to score well in DraftKings Fantasy doing that. Then we have Michal Figlak. That's such an aggressive name, Figlak. Taking on Austen Hubbard. Michal Figlak is a very good striker. He is coming off a 2-year layoff. That is my only concern. Otherwise, I'm all in on Mickey Figs, baby. Mickey Figs is a powerful striker. Mickey Figs has some good grappling as well, and Mickey Figs likes to move forward, control the middle of the cage, and get things done. I think Mickey Figs wins this fight, and I will have Mickey Figs at $8,400 in my lineup. The concern, though, is that 2-year layoff. 2 years is a very long time, and I mentioned this a few times, but all we have to do is go back 2 weeks and look at UFC 300. Every single fighter that had a layoff of a year or more, including a favorite, got their asses kicked. All of them. All of them. Raychik got finished. We saw Calvin Kattar just get absolutely bullied. And then in the main event, we saw Jamal Hill get finished. All 3 of them had long layoffs, and none of them looked good. Raychik looked good for a couple of minutes, and then the pressure just broke him in half. And I feel like the strikers, and Michal Figlak is a striker, the strikers have a longer time to get comfortable than a grappler. Grappler doesn't fight for a few years. They come back and diving at legs, sniffing crotches is diving at leg and sniffing crotches. Today, it'll be the same thing in 2 years. Striking evolves. Striking requires a very specific cadence, very specific timing. Striking is a whole different level of fluid. I do think Michal Figlak wins, and he will be in my lineup, but let's go ahead and take a look at his opponent. He's taking on Austen Hubbard. Austen Hubbard, this poor bastard, has had an unfortunate run in the UFC, and he's had some tricky matchups. He has had 2 runs in the UFC. This is his 2nd run. His first run in the UFC was from 2019 to 2021. He went 3-4. Then he left, got some regional wins, and they brought him back on The Ultimate Fighter. He fought his way to the end, and then he lost in the finale against Kurt Holobaugh. But he's had some tough fights. Kurt Holobaugh is not bad. Vince Pichel, Joe Selecki. Mark Madsen. Like, these are decent matchups, meaning that his opponents are tough. He's beating most of the people he's supposed to. Whoever the hell Roshkov is. He beat Prylasek. My fat ass knows all about Prylasek. He beat Bush. Like, he's beating the people he's supposed to beat, and then he's losing to the better people. So the question is, do you think Austen Hubbard, who is also a good striker, who's also a good grappler, Austen Hubbard, is he going to be able to stay in Figlak's face, not get beat in the striking, and work in some takedowns? I think no. I think he doesn't have success with the takedowns, and then I think he's stuck in a striking match, and I think Figlak is the better striker. Austen Hubbard is a good dog, though. At $7,800, he's a good dog. He's a somewhat durable guy that will come forward, that will stay in your face, and even though Figlak has a whole bunch of finishes, 9 wins, 9 finishes, if Austen can survive and if he can weasel in a takedown or two, he could have some success. I am on the other side of this, but if you think Austen Hubbard wins, he's certainly a good underdog here at $7,800. Then we have Victor Henry and Rani Yahya. What I love about this fight is this line has tightened on us. Victor Henry's a minus 500 favorite just last week. Might not even be a full week ago. He was a minus 500 favorite. And on paper, it makes sense. He's fighting a 49-year-old man, whatever the hell Rani Yahya is. Rani Yahya, he's actually just 40. But he's fighting a 40-year-old man in Rani Yahya. Victor Henry's supposed to be a busy striker who has his own good jiu-jitsu, his own good takedown defense. He likes to plot forward. He's got good head movement to avoid. He'll stay in your face. He'll stay busy at range. He'll throw head kicks in the pocket. He'll throw elbows. That's who Victor Henry's supposed to be. Problem is he's inconsistent. He lost to Rafael Assunção, was also a 40-year-old man at the time. Lost that fight. Basically did nothing. So I didn't understand when he was a minus 500 favorite. I do think he wins this fight. I absolutely think he wins this fight. And I love in the real world, in the betting world, what his line has become. I hate that he is still $9,500 in DraftKings Fantasy. I don't think he's worth $9,500 in DraftKings Fantasy. Certainly, in the Gravely win, he put up 100 points. In the Barcelos win, he put up 114 points. And that's because he got his strikes going in both of those fights. The Hani Barcelos win was his UFC debut, and that was a spectacular win. And he might cover his $9,500. He might. But he also might just be defending takedowns this whole time. Like, this is a tricky fight to determine what to do with, because I do think Victor Henry wins, but $9,500 is a lot of money to spend, and he might finish Rani. We just watched Rani get finished in his last fight against Montel Jackson. Where the hell is he? There he is. He just got finished in his last fight against Montel Jackson. But Hani is typically a pretty durable guy that could just dive at legs to avoid trouble and then get to the ground and have some success. I mean, look at his losses. Not the wins. Look at the losses. Decision, decision, decision. You have to go back to 2009 where Joseph Benavidez finished him, and then obviously Montel Jackson just did, but Montel Jackson hits like a freight train. Rani Yahya is older. He's slowing down. I do not think he's a good underdog. Some people, for some reason, are convinced that he is. I do not think he's a good underdog. I think Rani Yahya loses his fight, so the real question is, how many points does Victor Henry score in a win? Does he finish Rani Yahya and put up very real points, or is it like a boring decision where he's defending some takedowns but having success striking? That's a question for you and the Lord to answer, because I don't know. I don't think Victor Henry is going to cover his salary necessarily, but I do think he wins this fight. Then we have Uros Medic taking on Tim Means. Uros Medic is the one with 9 wins and 9 finishes. I accidentally said, pardon me, I accidentally said Figlak was 9 wins, 9 finishes. Figlak is 8 wins, 50-50 finishes and decisions. Uros Medic, there's no 50-50. Every single win is a finish, and his losses are as well. This guy is kill or be killed. And I do think he can do some killing in this fight, because he's $9,100, which is expensive, but as we see, he does typically put up some numbers. Uros Medic is a clean technical striker. He'll come out fast. He'll throw everything with 100% intent. Everything he does is to finish you. He throws heavy. He kicks heavy. Every single thing he does is to finish you. If he smells blood, he's even faster. He comes forward even more aggressively. He does have a very low 46% takedown defense. But if you zoom out and you eliminate this Oralby fight, it's a 46% takedown defense because he was taken down, I think, 113 times in this fight. If you eliminate that fight from the equation, his takedown defense is actually very good. And he's finished some very good fighters like Matt Semmelsberger. Oh, God, I'm fat. Like Matt Semmelsberger. Like Morales. Uros Medic is very good. But he's taking on Tim Means. And but means it's a tricky-ish fight. Because Tim Means is a somewhat durable guy. Not the most durable guy on the planet. You can see submission loss, submission loss. He's a somewhat durable guy, but he's a crafty veteran. He's got that stance-switching karate-style striking. He will work in the occasional takedown. Is he a very good wrestler? No. But his striking is so awkward, you can't find your rhythm, and then he'll work in a takedown. Then he'll clinch. All of a sudden, you're in a clinch, and he's trying to trip you and drag you to the ground. So Tim Means can make this an ugly fight. He's certainly a dog, if you will, with a W, a dog. He certainly can make this an ugly fight, but I don't think Tim Means wins. I think Tim Means is getting pieced up in the striking, and then he's going to attempt some sloppy takedowns because he's not really a wrestler. He's a striker that learned how to wrestle, and I think he'll get lit up there too. I think Tim Means loses, and history tells us if Tim Means loses, Uros Medic wins by finish. It's up to you if you want to spend that $9,000, but I do think Uros Medic wins this fight, and most of the time he covers his... Actually, he's always covered his salary, but he does have one finish where he didn't score over 100 points, which you would like to at least see somebody get to 100 with a finish. Then we have David Onama and Jonathan Pearce. David Onama is Jacob's underdog lock of the week. Okay? And I understand where he's coming from. He's a very good striker. He's got some good power. He likes to plot forward. He likes to control the pace. He's not really a high volume guy, but what he throws is meaningful. It is accurate. And he'll just throw that one punch at a time, two punches at a time, try to find the power, maybe clinch up, try to make something happen. He did just finish Gabriel Santos in his last fight, but before that, he lost to Nate Landwehr. And what happened in that fight, guys? Nate dogged him a little bit, stayed in his face, took him down a little bit, got dry, almost died, but came forward, continued to fight, stayed in his face. And that's because David Onama doesn't fight well backing up. He likes to be the dictator. He likes to move forward. He likes to be the offensive guy. He does not fight well backing up. And he's going to do a little bit of backing up here because he is fighting Jonathan Pearce. Jonathan Pearce, terrible striker, but a very good non-stop wrestler. He is just going to be diving at legs, moving forward, dragging you to the ground. You're going to see he just lost to Joanderson Brito by a submission. If you didn't see that fight, let me catch you up. He took Joe Anderson down, controlling him, 6.5 minutes or 6 minutes and 15 seconds of control time. Pretty one-sided wet blanket fight. And then he said, "Get up, boy," because he's a redneck. And then Joe Anderson Brito snatched up his neck and submitted him. It was very embarrassing. I don't know how Jonathan Pearce is showing his face in public. I would have changed my name and just completely reinvented my... Like, it was embarrassing. Get up, boy. Oh, tap. Oh, submit. Oh, submit. I can't breathe. It was bad. I mean, it was foolish. But I do think he wins this fight because he is such a good wrestler. And he is just going to move forward and shoot 100,000 takedowns in a row. It's just takedown, takedown, takedown. He averages almost 6 takedowns per fight. And if you stand up, he'll take you down again. If you scramble out, he'll take you down again. And if you're worried that he's going to run out of cardio, he won't. While most of his fights are by finish, he's only been to 3 decisions ever. He's got plenty of cardio, and he can drag this fight out. I think Jonathan Pearce wins this fight. I think he does so with as many takedowns as he needs, and he absolutely covers his salary. Jonathan Pearce will be in my lineup, and I'm heads up with Jacob's underdog lock of the week. And then we have Jhonata Diniz taking on Austen Lane. This is supposed to be a showcase fight. This is the UFC saying, hey, here's a heavyweight that we think we can get behind because we now love professional kickboxers. The UFC has Alex Pereira, who's a professional kickboxer, moved over to UFC and not only became popular very quickly, but also a 2-division champion very quickly as well. So now they're just gobbling up all of these former professional kickboxers and bringing them over. And that's what this is supposed to be. Hey, Jhonata. It actually might be Jonathan. Come in here, knock out a former NFL player, and we'll try to make you famous. That's what's happening here. And that's what should happen. Jhonata's a very good striker. He throws in combinations. He's got good, clean defense, great speed for his size, and he's got professional kickboxing in his background. But he's taking on former NFL player Austen Lane. He does spell Austin with an E. And that is something we should note because that's a really stupid way to spell Austin. No offense if that is you. But Austen Lane is a former NFL player. He started his MMA career about 8 years ago, so he has been in this game long enough. The only reason at this point I mentioned former NFL player is because that should give you an idea of how athletic this guy is. You don't become a professional football player and not be one of the best athletes on the planet. This isn't baseball. You just tuck your fucking big-ass belly into your pants and hang out in the outfield. That's not what this is. So Austen Lane is fast. Austen Lane doesn't hit very hard, surprisingly, for his tremendous size, but he's a fast guy. He's an athletic guy. He's learning incredibly quickly, and he's a guy that has had success. 12 wins as a heavyweight is not nothing. He did just get knocked out by Justin Taffa, but if you remember, that was a rematch. And in the first fight, there was a no decision. I believe it was an eye poke. He was piecing up Justin a little bit. All of a sudden, Austin's striking looked pretty good. Austin typically doesn't want to strike, though. He'll throw for a little bit, and then he wants to work the takedowns. You don't really see giant heavyweights shooting takedowns, so he has had success doing that. I think Jhonata Diniz wins this fight. I think he knocks out Austen Lane. But given Austen Lane's tremendous size, the fact that he's going to want to grapple, he could be a decent underdog here at $7,200 in your lineup. But I am going to trust the UFC's process. I'm going to trust what they're trying to do here and build somebody up and get a highlight knockout on the card. We know for a fact Austen can be knocked out. It just happened, and I think it does happen again. So I'm going with Jhonata Diniz here, but Austen Lane is more likely to turn into an Nurmagomedov than Dontel Mays is. All right, anybody on that train making those comparisons. Then we have Karine Silva taking on Ariane Lipski. Karine Silva, $8,500. Karine Silva was the underdog a week ago or 2 weeks ago. Full-blown underdog. I bet on her in real life at plus 118. She's now minus 150 or something like that. This DraftKings pricing is somewhere in the middle. She is a favorite at $8,500, but she's not as big of a favorite as she is in real life. But let's look at what she's done. 123 points, 99 points, 104 points. Quite simply, if you think Karine wins, throw in your lineup. $8,500 is spectacular pricing for somebody with a 100% finish rate. 17 fights with 17 wins and 17 finishes. She is finishing everybody. I don't know why she was priced like this. It's either she's going to win and score a ton of points or she's going to lose. There's no in between. There's no world where Karine Silva wins this fight and doesn't score well. So now it comes down to, do you think she wins? She's a very dangerous grappler. She's a powerful fighter. Her striking's not very good, but she did just knock down Marina Moroz. But her striking is not very good. She comes forward, throws whatever the hell she can throw, gets it to the ground as quickly as possible, and then she is insanely dangerous. She will ground and pound or work a submission. She is busy. She is dangerous. She's got incredible top pressure, and we know she is a spectacular finisher. She's taking on Ariane Lipski. Ariane Lipski is not dangerous at all. Where the hell is she? Karine Silva. Did she get married? Ariane de Silva? Did I just destroy Jacob's hopes and dreams? Ariane de Silva. This is the only place on the internet that I have seen this listed as Ariane de Silva and not Ariane Lipski, including the UFC's website, Tapology, and every single sportsbook I've looked at. This makes no sense. Either way, she's not a dangerous fighter at all. She did, okay, let me put my tail between my legs very quickly. She did just submit Casey O'Neill. And Casey O'Neill's good and a prospect, but Casey O'Neill looked like a shell of herself in that fight. She looked terrible in that fight. Outside of that, Ariane Lipski's not a finisher. She's not even a grappler. Outside of that, Ariane Lipski's a pitter-patter striker that wants to stay on the outside and just sort of jab 1-2, just sort of tip-tap her way to a decision win. That's who she is. But in the last 3 fights, she's sort of reinvented herself. In her last 3 fights, she has defended 21 takedowns. She shot 4, she got all 4. All of a sudden, Ariane Lipski's a well-rounded fighter. So I understand why some people think Ariane wins this fight. I understand why Karine Silva could have been an underdog when the line, I mean, she opened actually at even money, then was bet into a dog, and now bet to a favorite. So I understand, though. I understand the initial bet to a dog. People see, dude, Ariane Lipski's on a streak here. Ariane Lipski has reinvented herself. And that one loss, Priscilla Caceres is kind of a beast. That one loss in her last 5. Okay, Montana De La Rosa, phenomenal wrestler. Shevchenko. Okay, it's the other Shevchenko. Molly McCann, that's not a great loss. But the Joanne Wood one is. Ariane Lipski, you look a little closer. It's not a year ago, 2 years ago, Ariane Lipski's just, she's only here because she's pretty, pitter-patter striker, whatever. Now, all of a sudden, Ariane Lipski's well-rounded, making things happen, the glow-up of a century. I do think Karine wins. She will be in my lineup because when she wins, she finishes. That was a very long way to say Karine Silva's going to be in my lineup. Then we have the co-main event of the evening. I'll tell you right now, pick your side. Pick your side. We have Ryan Spann versus Bogdan Guskov. This is basically a heavyweight fight. I know it's not, but it basically is. This fight will end by finish. In all likelihood, one of these gentlemen is going to land a big strike on the other gentleman and win by finish that way. Ryan Spann is tremendous. He's 6'5". He's incredibly powerful, incredibly long reach, and he's very dangerous. Of these 21 wins, 18 of them are stoppages. And it's not just knockouts. 12 of the 18 wins are submissions. And yeah, he's not like shooting blast doubles and then setting up triangles and arm. It's not that kind of submission, but he is snatching things up when he can find them. He'll snatch up a guillotine. He'll snatch your arm up. He will make stuff happen. He's a well-rounded fighter, and he's tremendous, and he's powerful. He is the favorite here, and he is priced accordingly. But he is also fighting Bogdan Guskov. Bogdan Guskov, as we saw, has some pretty big boy power. He comes forward, and he will lay those big hands on you. He's a heavy-handed striker. He likes to come forward. He will throw big. He will mix it up. When he's striking, he can be fast, and he can have some real power. If he doesn't have that early success, that's when he'll work you to the cage and look for a takedown. I do think Ryan Spann wins this fight. I think this is too much, too soon for Bogdan. This is a giant step up in competition. A tremendous step up in competition. So I think Bogdan Guskov is going to be somewhat successful early and then be out of sorts when Ryan Spann is still standing there all huge, throwing heat back his direction. Ryan Spann is going to be the pick. $8,900 in DraftKings. If you think he finishes, which he probably does, then he's worth that money. And then we have the main event of the evening. You're sort of stuck playing one of these gentlemen because it is a 5-round fight. Mateusz Nicolau is a very good, clean striker. He's incredibly technical. He's also a good grappler as well. You see takedowns scattered throughout his career. Good jiu-jitsu, good wrestling, very good technical striking. He is good everywhere, except he is chinny. Ortiz finished him. He was just absolutely knocked out by Brandon Royval. All right, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Brandon Royval is incredibly tough. Brandon Royval just fought for a title, all those things. But Mateusz Nicolau is a little chinny. He had a nice little win streak here. Wasn't that far off. Wasn't that far away from being talked about to potentially get a title shot. And then he got smoked by Brandon Royval. So now it's his first fight in a year, a full year after that knockout, which I love to see because sometimes these fighters get knocked out, they come back too soon, and it's just going to happen again. Jamal Hill might get knocked out in his next fight. He was just knocked out. He was just put down, and now he's going to go fight another striker in a few months. That's never a good decision. So Mateusz Nicolau taking on a full year break before stepping into this fight, I think it's a good decision. He also was already on this card. This was supposed to be a rematch with Manel Kape. A lot of people think Kape beat him, and that was a bad decision. So this is a rematch. And then Manel Kape dropped. So Alex Perez stepped up on short notice. I caution you to be careful looking at the screen right now. You're going to notice he hasn't won a fight in 4 years. And it's like, avert your eyes. That the fact that this is a main event, a gentleman who was just unconscious versus a gentleman who hasn't won a fight in 4 years, who literally has 0 wins over an active UFC fighter. It's tough. So don't look directly at the screen. It will burn your eyes. But Alex Perez actually looked decent in his last fight. He was creating scrambles. He was defending some takedowns. His biggest issue in that last fight is he didn't let his hands go. He just did not let his hands go. That was his biggest issue. Because Alex Perez is actually a pretty good striker. Alex Perez can defend a takedown. He's pretty well-rounded. And I say he hasn't won in 4 years, But he lost to Figueiredo, he lost to the current champion in Pantoja, and he just lost to an undefeated prospect in Muhammad Mokaev. Before that, he beat who he was supposed to beat. He stopped Jussier Formiga with leg kicks. He lost to Joseph Benavidez. Okay, that was one of the best fighters on the planet for a while. So Alex Perez, with all the clowning I'm doing here, is still a quality fighter who has quality losses. The problem is this is short notice. And I don't think he's the better striker in this matchup. Mateusz Nicolau is going to be the better striker. Alex Perez isn't going to be looking for offensive takedowns. So now he's in a striking match with a better striker. So he probably doesn't win this fight. But $7,500, you need one of these guys in your lineup. It's a 5-round fight. I think Alex Perez is the more durable of the two. Certainly he's been finished by submission. And then you got to go back to 2018 for Benavidez, but Benavidez has that incredible power. Alex Perez might be a good underdog for your DraftKings lineup. It's very tough to pick a side for your actual lineup. I am going to pick Mateusz to win this fight. I think he's the better striker. This is mostly going to be striking. And he's the guy who had the full camp. Perez is the one stepping up on short notice. And Perez's striking in his last fight didn't look very good when it should have looked spectacular. So I'm going to be on the Nicolau side. But if you think Perez wins, or if you think this fight is closer to 50-50, then at $7,500, he could be very nice for your DraftKings lineup. His losses are quality. He's got spectacular leg kicks. And let's just assume that he didn't look that good in that last fight because he hadn't fought in 2 years. And then he finally dusted it off. And now in this fight, he is going to be throwing combinations and he is going to look good. That is my breakdown. I ask that you become a premium member. Look what this premium member did last week. Put up $20,000 in a winning DraftKings lineup. And he's not the only one. We have over $500,000 in winning DraftKings lineup from premium members alone. We are literally trying to build the best product on planet Earth, and it's only $10 for an entire month. You're going to get the lineup optimizer for DraftKings. It is going to be preloaded with the best DraftKings ownership projection in the game. That's an objective fact. After every event, we show you what the projections were. We show you every single one of our competitors, and we always have the best ones. It's just like period. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member. It is only $10 for an entire month. Next week is UFC 301. You will get that. You will get 3 other fight nights. It's the best value in this space. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member at the top.